Thank you all for joining us today. It's my pleasure to introduce Barry Shields, Head of Sales and Service at Three, one of the UK's leading telecom companies. Barry is a visionary leader with a proven track record of driving innovation in sales and strategy while navigating the unique challenges of a highly regulated industry. Under Barry's leadership, Three has not only achieved greater efficiency and 100% compliance, but has also driven measurable business growth, including increasing average revenue per user. By aligning cutting-edge technologies with a customer-first approach, Barry has helped shape Three's reputation as both a telecom industry leader and a real champion of digital transformation. So today, Barry will share his insights on how Three partnered with Lightico to tackle regulatory complexities, digitize critical processes, and deliver efficiencies into the contact center while also delivering seamless customer experiences. Together, they've redefined how sales and service teams operate in a highly competitive and regulated environment. So Barry, we're excited to have you here today to share your expertise, and let's get started. So to kick things off, Barry, tell me a little bit about your role at Three and what you're responsible for.
Morning, Gabby. It's a pleasure. So, as you say, I head up our sales and our contact centre. So, I look after all of our commercial activity in our contact centre channel. That's including new acquisition sales, upgrades, disconnection requests, and that's across voice, web chat, and we look after our voice and our broadband lines of business.
Fantastic. And what would you say that the biggest challenges you faced leading a sales organization in such a highly regulated environment?
Well, I think the regulation's ever changing and ever growing. We first started facing some challenges a few years back when the new IDD insurance regulations came in. And since then, we've moved to a model of device financing for our mobile phone sales. And that brought a whole host of added complexity from an FCA point of view. When we did that, I mean, our normal journey time was roughly about 30 to 40 minutes on average. And when we introduced device financing, we saw that leap to over an hour, close to an hour and a half on some occasions,
Wow.
as we adjusted to the new way of doing things. So, yeah, it puts a lot of pressure on customer time, and it also put a lot of pressure on our advisors. There's a lot to cover and a lot for them to remember and a lot of scrutiny on them. So I think from a people point of view, we wanted to find a way of how do we simplify it for our people.
Absolutely. And I like the way that you focus on your employees just as much as your end goals as well. So given all of these challenges that you were facing, how did you adapt your approach to sales and service over the years to stay ahead of this curve? So how did you make sure you could kind of make it a bit easier for your employees while also delivering the right levels of service to customers?
Well, we've just been through quite a significant IT transformation, overhauling all of our CRM systems. We're now also in the process of simplifying our knowledge tools and making those more intuitive to make it easier for advisors to find the information they need in a speedy response time. I think we've always tried to put a big emphasis on being digital led and promoting our self-serve, but we appreciate that customers don't always want to self-serve, and we've introduced tools along the way that help us to identify and offer support to our customers during that self-serve journey as well. And then we've worked with people like Lightico and previously Visolution to say, how do we take away some of that advisor effort? You know, a lot of companies focus on customer effort and making things simpler for your customers, but that's not possible unless it's simple for your advisors as well to do the thing that the customer's looking for.
And so before you went through this IT transformation, before you partnered with Lightico, were there any other specific pain points or inefficiencies that you wanted to solve?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge there was a lot of real challenges for us in terms of the time that it took. That was a biggie. You know, going from 30 minutes, 40 minutes to over an hour and a half. You know, customers call a contact centre for convenience. You know, they want to be able to do something. They've normally got an allocated amount of time, their lunch break or a commute or whatever it is. So we need to make sure we're able to provide that experience in the time that they're looking for. I think as
And
well,
mhm.
there is a big pressure on, as well as our Ofcom regulatory obligations, obviously with insurance and device financing, that comes along with the FCA aspect as well. And we didn't want our advisors to be worrying about remembering the things that they had to say. We really wanted them to be able to concentrate on the conversation with the customer. And as a result of these things, we were seeing frustration from a customer point of view as well coming through loud and clear in our CX measures and our NPS. It took a significant dip as we moved into these regulated processes.
Do you have any metrics on what the numbers were before you partnered with Lightico?
Yeah, I mean, as I say, our average handle time, so we look at journey time, but obviously from a CC metric measure, our average handling time prior to introducing device financing was around 800 to 900 seconds.
Wow.
We saw that increase to as high as 1500 seconds in the kind of first part of 2023. And going through as we migrated over onto the new model. So yeah, that was a huge impact. Our compliance was a challenge as well. Obviously, it was a move to a new approach, so you all expect that bedding in period. But we found as well that obviously advisors want to make sure that they tick all the boxes. And we found at times there was a lot of repetition in the stuff that they were saying because they wanted to be absolutely certain that they'd covered all the key points. And that then led into some frustration from an NPS point of view. Our NPS definitely dropped, and it's the number one theme that was coming through in the commentary from customers was the length of time it was taken to get stuff done in the repetition in the process.
Yeah, and it's really important, especially as customers become more and more impatient and want everything instantly. That
Yeah.
obviously it's so great that you got in there and recognized that challenge and made some changes. So, as you said earlier, you made the decision to partner with Lightico. What made you so confident that they were the right partner for this transformation?
Well, I think there was three key aspects that made me consider Lightico. One of them was it had the first-hand experience of actually using the product. So my partner was a customer of an organisation who already used Lightico to deliver something that we were looking at. So having seen the journey in action, it was quite impressive. I think as well there was a few organisations that we already worked with and partnered with, particularly in our indirect channels, who had used Lightico to solve some of their challenges. And, we got really good feedback from them on how good the product was, but also how good Lightico were to work with as a partner and as a team. And then I think the other key thing that was really impressive was the nature of the platform. So the platform in terms of being able to make changes, in the mobile industry, things change rapidly and we're always pushing to see how do we improve our journeys and how do we make things better. And the speed of change that Lightico could execute in their journeys was really impressive. I've worked with other partners where you want to make a change and it takes 3-4 weeks for a change request and resource deployment and all that. The way Lightico's platform operates, we're able to make changes, in 24 hours and it's done and up and running, which is really important for us as a business to be able to act at that pace.
Excellent. I'm happy to hear. So you decided to onboard Lightico's platform. Can you tell me a little bit about how it was implemented and how easy was it to operationalize and ramp up this new technology? Obviously, you have a lot of people using this technology. So how was that whole onboarding process? Can you walk us through it?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we've got quite a large scale operation. There's around about 1,500 FTE across the centres. Our initial approach was to kind of pilot and test it and see what was the best way for us to execute and get the journey right. I think we set up with a team of about 100 initially using the platform. And we wanted to do a bit of a comparison between what impact did it actually have versus the BAU process. It was really good because one of the things I like about Lightico is the team are quite keen not to just take your as is process and say, right, okay, how can you layer Lightico over the top? They were really keen to understand our end-to-end journey and actually see was there anything that they could recommend that they thought would simplify the journey itself. So through the process, not only did we bring Lightico into the advisors ecosystem, but we also were challenging ourselves to simplify the BAU process as much as possible, so that the guys who weren't on the pilot benefited through that whole piece as well. Once we got it up and running, the results were kind of almost instant to see. We right away saw the jump in NPS, and we saw a reduction in the journey time. There's a little bit of advisors getting used to any new system, but we've found that adoption curve pretty steep. We went from kind of 50% of the team using it and understanding the best way to use it, to being up to 90% in the space of kind of 4 to 6 weeks. And then from there, it it grew, word of mouth grew from the teams that were on using Lightico to the teams that weren't. You know, the scripting that we have always used, that customers probably find as tedious at times as we do, in terms of the, the information that gets lost in all of those terms and conditions that we read. It's always been a frustration for our people as well. And the more people heard about Lightico and what it was doing, the more people were asking, well, when are we getting Lightico? When are we getting Lightico? So after a period of time in the pilot, I think we ran about 3 months just to measure the measures of success. We quickly ramped up to 100% of the operation, I think, in the space of about 6 weeks. And now it's just, we used to have a Lightico process and a BAU process. Now the Lightico process is just the BAU process. And we're now looking at what's next in terms of user cases for us to improve the experience for our customers.
Well, that's very exciting, and it's always good when the users are actually asking for it rather than you having to push it on them. So I think that's definitely a big win and great management from your side too.
Yeah,
Can
it's
you?
one of those challenges you always get operationally when you introduce something new that you think is going to benefit. When you change an advisor's day-to-day life, it takes a little bit of time for them to adjust that they're doing the same things day in, day out. This was completely the opposite. Rather than us trying to push it and drive it, that there was a real enthusiasm
Demand,
to get into it. Yeah,
enthusiasm.
yeah, 100%.
Wow, that's great to hear. Very, very pleased. So can you walk us through a specific use case or process that has been transformed using Lightico, just so our audience here can understand what that was and how h- how you use Lightico to achieve that?
Yeah, sure. I think the big one, we use it on all our sales and upgrades journeys now. We're particularly around from a terms and conditions point of view. And as I mentioned, we cover our device financing requirements through it as well now when we're selling a mobile phone. So we've taken a lot of the mandatory information and we've worked with our legal and compliance teams to understand, okay, what are the key bits we still need to verbalise with the customer and we really want to hit home, and what are the bits that we want to be able to deliver to the customer in a more engaging manner. As I mentioned, and I'm sure everybody's had that experience, whether it's in contact centre or in retail, going through all these terms and conditions for different purchases, people lose interest, they don't listen, and it's really key that customers are listening so that we land the key information that they need to know. So that's been a real transformation. We've delivered that onto our Lightico platform, and actually we're seeing, because customers can see it firsthand, the bits that they really need a keen interest in, a lot of customers are noticing it and then asking a few further questions just for a bit more clarity. Whereas previously, it probably got lost in a whole heap of information that they were getting. So that's where the big improvement has came from in terms of reducing the amount of time and allowing the advisor and the customer to have a more natural conversation, a lot less scripted.
Excellent. So, which channels are you servicing? So, what's the actual process in terms of from the customer's perspective? Let's say they're calling into your call center to maybe they want to upgrade their phone or they want to leave Three. Could you maybe talk me through from the customer's perspective how they would experience Lightico?
Yeah, so as I say, it's across both our voice and web chat channels. So from a voice point of view, and the customer calls, so they agree whatever the upgrade is that they want to go with. At that point, we will then send the Lightico session and invite the customer in. and the customer can click that link on their phone, or they can click it on their desktop through email. We're able to deliver it through email and SMS. And then we can share the basket view, so customers really clear of what it is that they're signing up to. It's got the pricing from a device, an airtime, any price rise changes. So we've just recently had the change to the Ofcom regulation in terms of our pounds and pence price rises, which we've enhanced the Lightico journey as part of that, and delivering that to the customer right there and then at the point of sale. And then there's a number of other, depending on the products that they've purchased, there's a number of other key terms and conditions that the customer can click through on their phone, and they need to click to accept and acknowledge. So obviously there's a log from a compliance point of view from our perspective, which is great from a regulation point of view. And then once the customer completes it all, the advisor will get the notification. And what we've done is we get the advisor to send the Lightico session at the point they start creating the order on the system. So while the customer's reading the terms and conditions, the advisor can continue doing their admin part that they need to do on the CRM system. So you're double killing that time and making it even more efficient. And then the great thing is, once the customer completes the session, they've got a hard copy that they can download and they can keep for reference. It's a big part of the regulation that we need to provide hard copies as well as verbally uncovering the information on the interaction. So it kind of rounds off all of those aspects for it. And we're now looking to see what more can we introduce in terms of raising awareness of some of our other products as part of that journey with the customer. So as they go through it, they know about the growth of our home broadband and other aspects. So we've been using it very much as a regulatory piece, and now we're looking to see how do we use it more to kind of grow our commercial output as well.
Excellent. Yeah. It's always a bonus when a piece of technology that solves one issue can then add some other benefits. So to use it, for a commercial perspective, I think is a great idea. Have you seen any increase on average revenue per user since using Lightico? Has there been a commercial benefit apart from the time saving and the compliance?
I think definitely in terms of our dropout rate, in terms of customers not having the time to actually hang around and complete. And as I mentioned earlier, some of our processes were extending beyond an hour. And as I say, contact centre at time for customers is very much a channel of convenience. They maybe don't want to use self-serve because they want to speak to a person and they want to get that advice and expertise that you can only get from a human, but they don't have the time or the thing to go into a store. So contact centre kind of provides that in between. But there's very much the times they've got a time box level of time to deliver it and get that done. And when you go beyond that time, we did see a lot of customers very much being like, I thought this was going to be quicker. I don't have time to do this now. I'm going to need to go away. So in terms of that lost opportunity, we've not been able to actually close the customer there and then on the interaction. We've definitely seen kind of changes in our conversion rates as a result as well.
Excellent. So you've seen an uplift in conversion rates is obviously a big bonus. So all round, I think you're doing an amazing job. So if you could go through maybe any metrics you have on conversion rates, if you have them, conversion rates, average revenue per user, I'm sure our audience here would be really excited to hear. And of course, any NPS point increase that you have to hand will be very exciting to hear.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think the key ones that we started out as a measure of success, one was on our efficiency and our journey times. So as I say, we've reduced our journey times by 10 minutes plus on an actual sales journey, and we've brought that average handling time down from 1,500 seconds down to about 1,100 seconds. Still higher than what we were prior to device financing, but we expected that as a business. We knew there would be extra there, but we've really seen a big benefit in kind of where we were pre-introducing Lightico to where we are now from that perspective. I think compliance, we've practically eliminated any compliance issues. the compliance has been running at like 98, 99%. That 1-2% is just some advisor error at some points, but that's compared to initially we were in the 50s, 60s, and
Wow.
we've really saw a huge increase in that. Our NPS is increased by over 10 points across the teams, so we can see customer satisfaction is really improving. The conversion and the average revenue per user fluctuates between the different departments, and it also fluctuates seasonally in the mobile
Sure.
industry as well. So I don't have any hard numbers on that I could share, but we definitely know just from listening to conversations with our customers and seeing the change in the commentary we get from a satisfaction point of view, that there's been a big reduction in those customers that were ending the interaction because they just didn't have the time.
Excellent. And that's really thanks to you and your team as well for making sure that all these IT changes get implemented correctly. Were there any additional benefits that you saw from Three's partnership with Lightico?
I think two things. One was more operational, and from a people point of view, as I say, one of my primary aims is to make things as straightforward and as simple for our people. I really want them to be able to just relax and have a natural conversation with our customers. I mean, that's what our customers want as well. So trying to make it easier for them, and we know, as I said, that this had been for a number of years, we'd had multiple feedback points from our advisors around, can we shorten these scripts? Can we do something else? Can we do that? So there's definitely been an impact on our advisor satisfaction. They love it. They've been kind of wondering where it's been all these years. So to finally have something that can simplify that part from them has been a big win. I think as well, one of the good things from an internal point of view is I think it's really brought the channel and the operation and our compliance and legal teams closer together. I think we really learned to bring those guys in as part of the journey design and the solution design. And we at times getting compliance changes and legal changes in any business can be a lengthy process and multiple sign-offs and all these things. I think the legal and compliance teams, when they saw Lightico and when they understood what we were trying to do, there was a real appreciation that it was coming from a customer first perspective. It wasn't about saving time and cost operationally, or that wasn't our original objective with this. It was very much around making the experience better for customers, to the point now where the legal and compliance teams are coming to us and saying, well, we've also got this challenge, can Lightico help with this? And actually we can probably simplify that wording for you so it's clearer for customers. So there's much more of a collaborative relationship between ourselves and our legal and compliance teams as well.
Wow, that's excellent to hear. And I think what helps with all of that is making all these usually extremely kind of boring parts of the process very visual, easy to complete. So it's basically fun all round rather than being the tedious part. So you're also making the compliance and legal teams look good, and I'm sure it has a knock-on effect with agents and turnover and your employees just being happy to be working at Three. So it looks like it's been a really, really positive change for you and your
Yeah,
team.
yeah, and I think it's definitely makes people think. I think that's one of the key bits we're always trying to push to improve the journeys, and now people are looking at Lightico and saying, opening up, what's next? What other challenges have we got, and how can we resolve them using the kind of digital platforms? So I think we're quite excited about what's next, both from a commercial point of view, but also on the services side of the business as well, in terms of how do we make sure we get the right information to customers with clarity, because that's ultimately what they're looking for on the service side, is that clarity and confidence around the resolution that they're expecting.
Absolutely. We're very happy to have you with us. So I just want to look back 1 minute. So what are the key lessons you learned from this transformation process with Lightico? What have you learned that can maybe help you with your future decisions on technology partners?
But well, I think, like I mentioned there, I think one of the key learnings was bringing in our legal and compliance teams early on in the process. I think we've maybe not done that in the past, and it was a learning for us as a team that the earlier we get those guys in and the more input that they've got into it, they'll spot things that we don't consider because we don't have the kind of legal and compliance background and expertise. And that really helped for a much smoother solution design process this time round. And as I say, it's kind of brought the teams closer together in terms of what's the next challenges that we can try and solve together. So I think that was a big learning. I think as well, I mentioned the getting the Lightico team in and understanding the process and how it works so that they could bring their expertise to the table in terms of where they saw it fitting best, how to approach certain aspects. And we've had some of the Lightico team out in the contact centre with us. They've come out for a few visits to actually immerse themselves in the operation and understand how the things work day to day from an advisor point of view. And that was really useful. I think, when we came back from that visit, the Lightico team were like, okay, we can see how things piece together, and actually, well, there's something else over here that we might be able to have a solution for that keeps it all in one kind of ecosystem. So I think that collaboration with the Lightico team from the kind of operational level has been key. And then I think the other kind of main one is understanding from a technology point of view how it all pieces together. You can imagine we have multiple systems within the contact centre that the advisors use. And a learning for us has been, well, how do we engage those teams and get them to understand the scope of what we're doing so we can try and plug those bits together in a slicker way so that it's not just another tool for the advisor. It becomes a kind of part of their normal ecosystem rather than another thing that they think they need to use. So I think that was key as well.
And obviously a great leader to lead the whole project. I think that's where you come in. So
Yeah,
as we look
my team do all the hard work. I just take the credit.
as we look to the future, how do you see the role of sales teams evolving in regulated industries, especially with the growing reliance on digital tools?
I think people will always, certainly in my own opinion, I think people will always want to speak to people when they're making a big purchase decision. And I think that's where we're slightly different in telco, where it's not a one and done purchase. You've got that ongoing relationship throughout the kind of life cycle of the customer. So I think it's really key from a people point of view and a sales team point of view that they're able to concentrate on that conversation and that experience. If it's the customer's first touch point with you as an organisation, it has to be perfect. If it's not, that sets a perception or sets a standard for what they expect for the rest of the relationship. And if you want customers to continue to stay and be loyal and spend more, it's really key. So taking away the bits that we can through digital tools to allow them just to think about that conversation is the biggest thing for me. I think there's also a piece around being able to understand customers better. I think there's a lot of information, particularly because we have an ongoing relationship with our customers. There's a lot of information that we have from their various touch points with us throughout their contract life. And how do we make sure that we are able to condense that and surface that in a way that our people can use effectively during conversations? So we're not having to ask the customer loads of questions about the things that they're looking for, because we've got a lot of insight into them as a customer, and we can almost sense check with customers. So we think this might be interesting for you. Would you agree? Rather than lengthy conversations about different aspects. And then obviously AI is coming. I think we're taking our first kind of steps into that over the next 12 months. And there's a lot of insight, text analytics, speech analytics, agent assist, co-pilot. A lot of these tools, again, it's about how do we get the information to our people in a way that is simple and straightforward that they can use as part of their conversations, and it doesn't distract them from having that conversation, but helps them have a more informed conversation with our customers.
Yeah, I think as customers' expectations keep evolving, so they kind of these days get a bit annoyed if they're being asked the same question twice, you know. So I'm with you
Yeah,
on the direction. Reduce
I
the
think,
repetitiveness, make things more visual, make things easier, use whether it's AI or other tools to predict what customers might like so that customers actually get like a website experience while talking to someone. So
yeah,
I
and that's
think
the
that
thing. I
helps
think,
your reputation, that your brand reputation. Three.
yeah, and we know more and more how important mobile connectivity is becoming in people's lives. You know, it's no longer a luxury or a
Yeah,
hobby or whatever. It's you know it's absolutely mandatory, and people really place a lot of importance in their mobile and their connectivity. They want to know that they want to be able to speak to people and have confidence in the people that they're speaking to. So I see that as being the key role for our teams and the digital tools kind of supporting them with that.
absolutely. What advice would you give to other sales leaders who are looking to drive digital transformation in their own organizations?
Um, be brave. Yeah, I think sometimes there's always nervousness about adopting digital. I think, you know, particularly in the assisted channels, people are really keen to put a lot of responsibility on the advisors, and it's almost like, well, if the advisor does it, then we know it's done. If it's a digital tool, then the customer might not pick it up. And I think the the world has evolved, you know, and customers are taking in information in all sorts of formats these days. So yeah, I think having that kind of end vision of what do you want the journey to look like. But I think like going back to when I made the point about why I was considering Lightico, I think you need to remember that you're a customer, regardless of what role you play in an organisation. You're a customer for multiple organisations, and I think that was the real piece that we kept pushing was, well, what would the what would I want as a customer? What would the best experience look like if it was me buying this phone? Well, how would I want to be engaged? How would I want to get this information? You know, that was the conversations we had with the legal and compliance teams, because what we had to keep in mind was the reason these regulations are in place is to protect customers and to make sure that they do get the information and the experience that they deserve. So we always had to keep pulling ourselves back to that to say, well, what would you want as a customer? And I think that really kind of helped us stay true to the experience that we wanted to get out of it at the end. And then you really just need to have some simple measures of success, you know. You mentioned ARPU and the conversion rates. We were really keen not to commercialise the measures of success, again, for that reason that it was very customer driven. And at times when you bring commercial measures of success in an early stage, people think that's your main priority, and well, you're a sales team, so you want to drive more sales, you want to drive more revenue. We were very clear from the beginning that that wasn't part of our measure of success. Our number one measure of success was our customer experience and reducing the journey
Wow.
time. And we knew that was the biggest factor. So having those kind of very clear from the start helped everybody to buy into what it was that we were trying to achieve.
Wow. So the other impacts were actually knock-on effects.
Yeah, we knew. I mean, we expected that there would be some upside or benefits in other aspects, and you know, there's still some bits that we're still currently trying to measure in terms of complaints and demand impact further down the customer's life cycle, because they're not calling back about things they weren't clear about. You know, we're still to flow some of those benefits through and understand what impact that's having, which again, commercially from a cost point of view will be beneficial. But we very much started from a point of the customer we want to see getting the improvement and the benefit here. The other stuff, if it comes, then great. But we know if we create a better experience for our customers long term from a commercial point of view, that can only be good, because they'll come back and they'll tell
Mm.
people all the old kind of adages that you expect. But that was our number one priority.
It's absolutely impressive to see that a sales leader is focusing on the customer experience primarily. It's very special to see. So it's really an
You sound
honor
like my
to talk
legal
about
team.
that. Mm. So Barry, thank you so much for sharing your incredible insights and experiences. Before we wrap up, are there any final thoughts or takeaways that you would like to leave with our audience?
I think just that be clear about the why. Why are you doing it? Like that's the bit that if you know why and other people understand why you're doing it, then how you do it and what comes out the back of it, you'll achieve. There's no doubt about it. Having that clarity on why really will kind of bring everybody on board and push people to think out the box about the solution and what it might look like, because they know what it is that you're wanting to achieve, or what it is you want this thing to exist. So I think that's really important, is to have that kind of clearly defined up front and have everybody bought in and understanding what that looks like.
Wow, thank you, Barry. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you today.
Thank you.
I think you have a very lucky team to have you as their leader, and I really look forward to talking to you again in the future. So thank you very much.